Welcome to the Selling and Promoting Training Seminar series, which aims to help training organizations improve sales and marketing. Today we're talking about taking online bookings. My name's Scott Spence. I manage a group of training companies with bases in Australia, New Zealand and the United Kingdom. We're a provider of project management training. I'm also a director of course sales, which is software that helps training organizations administer their training processes and procedures. I'm based in Brisbane and selling internationally. Now, the first step, we'll talk about resources. We've got a PDF you can download from coursesales.com. This presentation is going to be on YouTube. The slides will be on SlideShare, and you can attend one of our regular webinars via GoToMeeting. Now, topics to cover is a clear business case for engaging in online registrations, a plan for migration towards online booking systems, strategies for dealing with challenges, addressing those underlying concerns, and the case studies. So I've got a few interesting things to talk to you about with regards to case studies. So first of all, the business case is pretty important. This is the reason why you're going to be doing the migration to a new registration system. With regards to costs and looking at reduction, as you can see on the PDF there, the cost that we've calculated for each transaction by manually receiving it and data entering it into a system and ready for reporting, etc., is between $17 and $44. Now that's quite expensive when you add that up for each registration that is made. Now those costs include the costs associated with the administrator, bookkeeper, and maybe any postage costs if you are using paper-based confirmation letters, etc. Those are included in those costs. Now, risk mitigation is about making sure we don't do too many errors. So if we reduce the errors, that is, in this case, get the customer to enter the details online, have that information go directly into our system, which is then used to create things like emails and inform the trainer who's going to be on the training course, etc. Hopefully we can get rid of some of those errors. Now, we've estimated that if there's a major error, say every 10 forms, so you get a spelling mistake for a person or put them onto a wrong course, etc., we estimate the cost of dealing with those errors is between $130 and $220, and that's made up of phone calls where they're trying to correct the error, perhaps a complaint where a manager has to meet with the customer, and also a reputational decrease, which is where maybe someone decides not to purchase because of the error that was made. Visibility is about making sure that you know what decisions you're making. And now in relationship to advertising online through something like Google AdWords or email newsletters, they really come into their own if you're going to be able to track the progress of the booking and be able to immediately know who's made the purchase and what got them there. So improved decision making around marketing improves your return on investment. We've got an estimate that about $300 could be improved on a per month basis. So again, that's a benefit of having online bookings and a streamlined registration system. There's strategic importance as well. Sometimes you might want to do an online booking system, set up an online booking system for particular reasons associated with a further effort down the track, such as enabling staff to work from home or enabling people to work from remote offices. You can use those benefits from future efforts to justify moving to online bookings. And how do you know that online customers aren't passing you by and not looking at you because you don't even offer online bookings as well? That's another strategically important reason to move to online booking. So it's good to have a good business case so you can go forward to those people who make the decision or those people who are influencers in the decision, and they realize, they buy into the concept of going for a new registration system. Now, preparing for migration, this is when you've decided, yes, you are going to go ahead with it. These are the steps we recommend. There are 6 steps. We plan your migration efforts. Definitely do a plan as to what effort it will take to get from where you are now to an implemented system, and make sure you involve everybody, involve staff, administrators, trainers, etc. And I often find that providing a visual diagram of what you're doing helps get that buy-in. Do a proof of concept, and particularly if you've got staff members who are a little bit hesitant about going to an online system or changing the booking process. Doing a proof of concept can enable them to buy into the idea of having an online booking system, and so they can actually see how it works, which can be really beneficial. Migrating essential existing data is also a step you want to take. Now be careful about this. If you migrate too much data, you'll find, number one, that your system could be overrun by old information, but also it costs money. To migrate the data costs money, costs manual time and effort, double checking the information, etc. And sometimes it's not even that worth it. So you have to keep an eye on, moving from one system to another, how much of that data do you really need to migrate. So configuring the system, I recommend you configure it first of all to your current workflow, so what you do currently, and then start adding bells and whistles on later. So once you've got your current system working as a mirror, or as a mirror in the new system, then you can, and you've used it for a bit of time, then you can start looking at adding in some new features and new functionality. And finally integrate, or not finally, but definitely integrate it into your business. So make sure that this new booking system is actually integrated into the business. Make sure the old legacy system doesn't sit around there. In some cases, you might want to continue using a paper-based form for particular customers who would prefer to receive a paper-based form or fill out a paper-based form. Or maybe even perhaps your customers, you have a marketing campaign or a particular method of marketing, such an insert into a magazine or something like that, where it is completely appropriate to have a paper-based registration form rather than just having an online registration form. But make sure you integrate it, and maybe even change the way you talk. As you can see on the PDF there, it says, don't just say complete a booking form, say visit us online to enroll. So change the wording, change the way you communicate with your customers. And finally, make sure they've got continuous improvement. So review how the system is working, document how it's working and how it's changed your business processes, and then look to improve that system. And I always suggest people keep a running tally of changes that they want to make to the system, and then group them together, maybe by the end of the month or end of a couple of months, and then look at addressing some of the top priorities there. So there are challenges associated to moving to any new booking system. An online system is no different to that. Now there's a number of challenges we've identified, and I've grouped them into challenges for staff. Namely, my staff will resist the change. Now that's of course when people just don't like change, they don't want it. Now there's an underlying concern here about, I don't know how this is going to affect my job security. People don't know how's this going to change the way we work. Am I going to be needed anymore? So you might want to start addressing that with staff and making sure they realize that they're still valued and you still need them, and that you will be looking to enhance what they can offer to customers. Because online booking forms are going to cut out so much work that you'll find that people think, heck, I'm not going to be needed anymore. So it'll add to our workload. Well, people don't like extra work. But of course, online booking systems pretty much bypass people. So it's going to reduce their workload. And it seems a bit incongruous that they're resisting the change because they might not be needed anymore, but equally they're saying, hey, I'm going to have more work. Initially, there might be more work because there'll be training involved and they'll be getting used to the new system. But generally speaking, it's actually going to reduce the workload. Our systems are good. It ain't broke, don't fix it. Classic line here, discussed. Pretty very consistent with people's views to not wanting change to occur. I think there's an underlying concern here about changing what they do is going to cause more work or create uncertainty and sort of undermine that level of expertise somebody already has. So it's well worth it to address that particular concern and maybe stick to a view that no, if it ain't broke, make it better. We're not trying to fix it, we're trying to make it better, we're trying to improve things. This is a movement going forward. We're not saying necessarily anything's wrong now, we're just saying we can be better than what we're doing now, because we're in a competitive environment where there are people, customers who are wanting better service, more efficient service. We're having to reduce costs to make sure that we're competitive in the marketplace when it comes to pricing, and we want to be able to cater for more business as well. So lots of reasons there to ensure that you're constantly improving your business. Challenges to the customer. Well, our form is too much to fill in online, and it could very well be. But a printed form, because it can be filled in over time, you don't really notice those sorts of things. But online, what you can do is you can do things like save to draft. You can save a form to draft and come back to it later. You can also do things like add help into each of the fields. You can also show or not show fields depending on the response somebody has entered in the previous part of the field. So one field can reveal or hide another set of fields. There's also this concept of having a two-step process, gathering a little bit of information now and then more information later. And of course, this is about dealing with losing customers. People fear that the form will be too onerous and therefore you'll lose customers because they won't want to fill out all the information. Our customers don't use the internet. Well, as much as I would be surprised about that and suspect that it's unlikely, there are groups of customers out there, but why not do some market research to ascertain which customers of yours are on the internet or which potential customers are on the internet as well. For those who don't have a computer, you might want to set something up in the reception area. And of course, again, this comes down to the we might lose customers concern. So again, worthwhile addressing because, staff and other people within the organisation are going to be worried about the potential impact on business. We already have a web to email form. Why would we need something else? Well, web to email forms are great, but generally they involve still a double entry. So you have to take that email, you have to enter it into a system that allows you to do your reporting or even your invoicing and things like that. So again, this concern generally is about I'm going to have more work to do. We understand the system. Our customers do. There's a degree of concern about the impact on customers. So this hopefully will replace that web to email form, and it'll be an improvement on that. We need a signature on our booking forms. Well, look, is a signature really required? Now, in some cases for payments, it may be. But there's nothing to stop us creating a PDF that is automatically sent back to the customer, already filled out, just waiting for a signature, or even having the customer sign that signature when they come in on their first day. So there are some flexibilities there about whether or not a signature is required, and then if a signature is required, there are solutions within the online booking system to deal with that. Productivity dip. Expect and plan for a productivity dip. Okay, the reality is when you undertake a change to business processes, while people are getting used to it, so you start from rumors or discussions, which is where people are uncertain and they're distracted, and so their confidence is decreased. You explain the benefits, and people get a bit more interested, and they go, "Okay, this sounds pretty good," and they start getting excited about what they can do. Confidence increases. And a bit of the productivity increases too slightly, then you have a realization of the amount of effort required, the new learning that's required, the new systems you have to get used to, customers and staff, and then there's a decrease in productivity, which then frequently and fortunately is followed by an increase when realization of the benefits, that is increased bookings, increased efficiency, so we've got better productivity and more confidence in the system, and it becomes the system that you used to use anyway. Now I've got two case studies. The first case study is about a Word template and a spreadsheet moving to an online system. So the two full-time trainers, dedicated administrator and a dedicated bookkeeper, Word templates were used to email to customers. So customers were either it was automatically sent out to the customers, or customers inquired via telephone, and we sent them an email with those Word templates on. And that information, when it was received back, and it might be printed from the Word template, and then a fax comes back, or they might have filled out the Word template and it's received back via email and then entered into a spreadsheet. The challenges here were there were errors included in the mangled or incorrect form. Sometimes when a form was emailed back, it wouldn't have the right format, etc. The course date was often incorrectly entered, so people would manually have to enter these course dates in and the location. And if they were filling in multiple forms, which you hope they do, they could use data from a previous form, and so all these forms were coming in with, and usually there was errors probably in about one of three forms consistently. So there was also a filing convention, so you'd get these files, whether they were a fax, because they'd be faxed and scanned as a file, or you'd receive the Word document itself. You have to save those within a directory, which was called identified by the course title, the date, and the location of the course. And that convention of the naming system wasn't always followed, so there was confusion amongst staff as to where things were. So solution was to take bookings online and enter the information straight into the system, and customers would do that. They entered the information into the system straight away, no templates, no Excel spreadsheets. It was all replaced by the online system, and I was very happy to retire those Word templates. Now, benefits were we had an audit trail. We could record who did what because the online system allowed us to do that. We had pre-filled in data with course details. So the course, people would search for a course, then say they wanted to enroll on it. As a result, we already had the course they were interested in. So again, we minimized the errors, minimized the data being collected on the forms. Enable quicker entry of multiple people, so you can actually enter more people on a particular course within a given time frame. So for people who are booking large numbers of participants, this was very useful. So the idea of making it easier for the customer to enter people onto the courses is definitely a good way to go. Now, confirmed email immediately. So once people made an inquiry or sent a booking in on the online system, immediately an email goes out to them and says, "Hey, thank you very much for your booking." People get an immediate response, and in fact, we would include information on how to then go and do online study. So they could start immediately in the learning process, which is very useful for them. Within 1 month, 95% of registrations were all online. We were not using the forms anymore. There was some floating around, so people would send in these Word templates, but generally everyone was doing it online. Within a couple of months, no paper-based bookings anymore. So no faxes, no templates, no email saying, "Can you book me on such and such?" They just went online and did it, and it's a pretty efficient way of working. Second case study is about paper-based forms to a Google Apps. So this is not going to a dedicated booking system, but going to Google Apps, which can provide an option of having forms that go into a spreadsheet. So it's one trainer doing their administration. They hand out paper forms, and they sent PDF forms via email, which people then printed and then faxed in, or they printed and posted in, or they printed and scanned and emailed in. Multiple ways this information was coming in, but generally all via a handwritten form. Now, customers would phone, mail, or fax back these forms. Now, challenges associated with this, some forms just get lost. I mean, it's a paperwork nightmare. You have all these bits of paper lying around, different forms, had to staple them together, try and keep track of who's who. Sometimes the faxes would come in, or the scans would come in, and they weren't of good enough resolution, couldn't read the information. Very frustrating. So confusion about which course was requested was still predominantly here as well. People would choose what course, and if they put the wrong date in, there was confusion as to which date or which course exactly they had booked on. Maybe left off the location, etc. Quite confusing. So the solution here was to make use of existing Google Apps account, create a Google site with an online form. So an online form was created. Google allows you to create these online forms, fairly basic, fairly limited validation on the fields, but sufficient at least to capture the information and put it directly into a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet was then used to keep track of the people who were going on the course. Paper forms were not retired in this instance. Paper forms were still being used because they were the way to distribute the information to customers, and they were still being used, but then the information was being directly entered into the spreadsheet there. But so this wasn't a complete move over to an online system. It was a partial move over, which just eased the pain of taking those bookings just ever so slightly. So benefits, of course, removed the need for just paper, manually added paper forms in one place, and a degree of reducing the double entry, but it wasn't removed completely. So, hope you enjoyed the Taking Online Bookings presentation. Please visit coursesales.com for videos and links. Future seminars are coming up. And of course, you can contact me if you've got any further questions. Thank you very much for listening, and remember to like and subscribe.